As we move to the conclusion, I just want to do a real quick contrast of how different the Spanish legacy is than from the English. When the English come, they're not seeking to evangelize in the beginning. They're seeking a religious sanctuary. They're very religious, but they're looking for a sanctuary. That's why they interpret, for example, the Atlantic as the Red Sea. That's why they interpret Queen Elizabeth as Pharaoh. That's why they see the New World as Canaan, the new promised land. They're not coming to evangelize. Christopher Columbus came to evangelize not the Indian people, but the people of the Great Khan. He was on a diplomatic, exploratory mission, purportedly even had a letter to the Great Khan with him. The English come, with all due deference to my English colleague who's going to be speaking after me, they come with a different view. Not a bad view, not a good view, but much different. Evangelization is not part of. And notice how the early English speak about a city on a hill. You've heard that talk. A city on a hill, a light to the nations. What country is that? Israel. No, actually, it's the United States. It's not Israel. We are the city on the hill. We are the light to the nations. The very language that's used from Isaiah about Jerusalem is now getting transposed to the New World and applied to the United States, what will become the United States, by the English. When you talk about sanctuary, you talk about religious structure, you talk about temple. The sanctuary of the English in the New World is the new temple with the new Jerusalem. Both the English and the Spanish, as well as the Italians and Portuguese and others, are very focused on Jerusalem, the umbilicus mundi, the center of the world, often at the center of medieval maps. But like I said, the shift that takes place is the Spaniards continue to look to conquer the historical city of Jerusalem. The English begin to develop a new city on the hill. You know, we have reports from the 1500s in Mexico where Spanish missionary friars would gather the peoples together, divide them up into groups, and reenact the fall of Jerusalem. They would actually practice it. They would practice. There'd be a model of the city. The Indians would be divided up. You get to be the good guys, I'm Spanish. You guys are the Muslims. And we'll fight it out and we'll reenact that. This is going on in the 1500s. The English aren't doing that. In their sanctuary, they're constructing a new Jerusalem. So we get to the end. This is what happens, of course. Columbus, among other things, really does see himself as a messenger. America is going to become the center of this worldwide stage of evangelization for the Spanish. And La Florida is part of the story. My profession is a theologian. I work with trying to retrieve traditions. Working with Columbus, I need to be able to retrieve something that I can work with. I simply can't dismiss him and say, he's no longer relevant, he's a huge racist, or whatever I want to ascribe to him. I have to find something. If this is a legacy, it's a tradition, it's living and ongoing, I have to find a way to work with Columbus to bring him into the contemporary discussion. One of the things that I would appeal to here is his universalism. Now, this is going to fall tragically short when it comes to how he treats the Indians, but if you know the history, it doesn't start that way. It increases during his voyages. And the best explanation of that, from that I can find, is simply he was so convinced of his apocalyptic scenario that when people didn't act the way they were supposed to, he starts to force them. This is common in apocalyptic scenarios. Luther did the same thing. When Luther comes on the scene, he's very, very open to the Jews. But he believes that the Jews are going to convert. So he's very open, but when they don't convert, you'll find some of the harshest writings against the Jews, Gegen die Juden, by Luther. Columbus takes a very bad turn. As Bartholomew de la Casa says, this is the one thing he writes, I don't understand about the guy. He's good-natured, He's kind. For some reason, this is the one blindness that he has that I've never been able to understand. But within that, I would say there is a universalism that we can bring forward for this legacy, and it comes into St. Augustine. This city, in many ways, has sort of that element of the New Jerusalem, inasmuch as it has been the center stage time and time again for struggles for those who are looking for a new, if you will, making wonderful for all peoples. In this city, there's been notable victories and defeats down through the centuries. Often we forget them, sometimes we want to ignore them. But it has been a battlefield of good and evil, widely understood, where people are looking for this new way of living. Columbus would say to us, despite his historical problems, that the way you have this renovation, this renewal, this restoration, this transformation is by listening to all the voices. This is what he tells us. He said, I listened to everybody. I read everybody so that I had a good idea of what I was supposed to do. The quest here for the New Jerusalem continues. The way I understand Spanish, Viva Florida is an imperative. It's a command. If you were working linguistically, an imperative begins in the past, continues into the present. It's a command, live. But it's also a command, live into the future. Into the future. Viva Florida, in other words, keep alive Florida. I believe it's that future, that making wonderful, that's found at the core of Columbus's apocalyptic thought, often misconstrued and abused, nevertheless, that is crucial for the Spanish legacy. Regardless of creed, color, and country, this has been the longing of many down through the centuries in St. Augustine. I'll conclude with the irony of history that the Spanish legacy is bequeathed to the New World by an Italian, which reminds us that legacies of people are really legacy of peoples who come together in different ways at different times. So I'd like to thank you for your attention and simply say, Viva Florida. Thank you.